And then by a miracle, we always got it, and it was always one moment that everything in the last hour start running, and suddenly one take, fantastic. Now we are getting there. The second day, wow, that's what we have one. And once we have one, then we start kind of losing a little bit. Yes, and we did always a couple of takes. And yes, if somebody really screwed the take in the middle, you have to return. There's no. It's funny that people think that there's a lot of technical achievement here or CGI. No, there's no CGI. The only special effect is the emotional effect, which hopefully works. But rather than that, we have to go back and handmade again, and that was the nature of the show. You know?
But here's what happened: when you're sitting there. And it's a traditionally shot film, a fair amount of coverage, actually, sometimes quite a bit. And so we're sitting there, and I'd be waiting, just an average day. I'd start.
You were saying, "Where's Alejandro? Where's Alejandro?"
No, listen, honestly, almost. I'd sit there, and I'd start to look around, and I'd start to realize what we were doing. And I'm telling you, like a chill would run down my spine, like retroactively, I'd get nervous, and I'd think, "Wait a minute. What was anybody even thinking? What were you thinking that we could even, you know what I mean? It would hit me then. I'd think, oh my God, what did we do? That was a huge mistake. Why did we think we could make a movie like that? That's what happened. It hit me later. It's like when you're almost in an accident and like you wake up in the morning and go, Jesus Christ, I could have been killed last night.
Yeah.
That's what it was like. I got scared later. That's how stupid I am, and this is the only other thing I have to say, because you are obviously film savvy and art savvy. I'm going to say this, and I'm actually making myself sick. I've said this so many times, but I'm not sure people are getting, everybody, I mean everyone, Chivo, the camera operator, all the actors, the crew, everybody, for sure. But I'm not sure people are getting what Alejandro did. I think they get what they did, but I directed a small film once, so I had a knowledge of how this works. You all have a knowledge of how this works. It's not the one take thing. It's how do you know? I don't know how you know, because I was forced into a situation where I didn't have any money, and there was no editing, so I had to go home and cut it together myself, and so I had to kind of cut it in my head. This is on a level, how do movies have a pace, a rhythm? You have to emotionally at moment 17 be here. You've got to be now here to have the most impact. You've got to tell this story succinctly here. You've got to hope that everybody feels this way here. You've got to hope that, you have to do that in your mind. You have to not just know knowing kind of where the cuts are, but you have to know where it is at that point, and on what level, and also not just, well, he's going to feel this, she's going to be mad at Amir. Not that. Like, we're talking about, at this point, I really want to make the point of talking about where my ego is. And at this point, I want to have these symbols that make you feel like this, and to have the balls, and to not be afraid of saying, I feel like this in my balls and my stomach, and I'm not afraid of the poetry. I'm not afraid of saying how I feel, I'm not afraid of, I'm not coy, I'm not clever, I'm not ironic. I don't know how the fuck you did it.
You did it. You didn't realize he was drunk, but you did it.